As one of the most visited capitals in Europe, Prague has earned the reputation of a fun city with lots of bars and relaxed atmosphere. In recent years, it sort of became a trend for IT specialists and traveling artists to move into Prague. Prague is becoming more cosmopolitan and more hipster. But if Berlin has Kreuzberg, London has Brixton, what is the most hipster neighborhood in Prague? It is without any doubt Holešovice. Holešovice is one of the oldest neighborhoods outside of the Czech capital city center. It is located on the north of the city, in the curve of Vltava river. It used to look quite unsightly, as a lot of factories and warehouses were located here. Nowadays, Holešovice is one of the best areas to live in Prague, because of its developing infrastructure, vicinity to the center, and an abundance of recreational areas, galleries, buzzy cafes and restaurants. Holešovice's western border lies somewhere in Letna Park, a very famous location. You can find Prague's metronome here and the beer garden. Well, now it's around 11 a.m, so obviously nobody is drinking beer now, even in the Czech Republic. But if you come here like after lunch, I'm sure it's gonna be already very busy, and in the evening you can hardly find an empty table. A nice walk in the park like that begs the second breakfast. So we will try to find a coffee place where we can have coffee, maybe some pastries. The only problem with that is finding a free table. We will try a famous cafe called Letka. I was only able to go there once and I had to make a reservation. So we'll see how lucky we will be now. Yeah, there's no space. Who would have thought? But we're gonna show it to you anyway, a little bit at least. Very nice and busy. Okay, let's go somewhere else. Okay, well, that was a failure, but I've expected that. Vaclav didn't. But there are many more coffee places here that we can check out, guys. We will also be showing you some on the way, because again, there are many options. I was actually here with a friend yesterday in Holešovice, and we had to go to like 3 places before we found a spot. And then we got a table! They have really nice breakfasts here. I think they have brunches here, and that's like the most hipster thing that you can have after a pair of Nike shoes. Hipster aesthetic is also known as cafe latte aesthetic, because the natural habitat of all hipsters is a nice coffee place. It is that quintessential hip coffee place with deliberately shabby interior, or the opposite, very cleaned up Scandinavian decor, croissants, brunches, and 20+ types of coffee on the menu. And it's not the weekend, guys. It is, what is it today? Wednesday, and it's full. Another element of this hipster paradise is the copious amount of vintage at secondhand stores. One thing to know before you go thrift shopping in Prague, if you come from the Western countries, is that you might be disappointed, because we don't have anything like Goodwill here or big flea markets where you can get like a real leather jacket for 20 bucks. It does not exist here, because a lot of the clothes comes from Switzerland, Germany, Austria, and sometimes from US, Canada, England, France. One of the most famous places in Holešovice is Stromovka Park, the biggest park in Prague, and its neighbor Vystaviště Holešovice. Vystaviště was built for the General Land Centennial Exhibition in 1891. It was a huge event attended by 2.5 million people altogether, and many buildings you can find in Holešovice today were constructed for this occasion in a record time of 1 year. And they're still standing. Impressive. The most famous one, perhaps, is the Industry Palace. Fun fact, Nirvana was supposed to have their concert right here, but it was cancelled because Kurt Cobain had a coma incident. That did not sound like a fun fact in the end. If you ever wondered where are most of the original statues from the Charles Bridge, they're right here. in this building, which is called Lapidarium of the National Museum. Right now it's sadly closed on a reconstruction, but when it's opened, the ticket is really cheap, so definitely check it out. You see it now, don't you? Holešovice seems like a great place. Beautiful architecture, cool atmosphere, with lots of trees and places to relax. But with all these great things that this area has to offer, there is one problem that might make Holešovice's future a bit gloomier than everybody was hoping for. It is the danger of gentrification. I'm sure you heard about this process before, when a former workers' quarter is completely transformed by rich investors into an affluent and refined area where everyone wants to live. Sounds good? Well, there are certain problems that might be caused by gentrification. We're gonna talk about them today. But first, let's find out what all the hype is about in Holešovice. Why everyone wants to live here. Well, so far we didn't get to the part of Holešovice that most Czech people think of when they hear the name. Let's go there. This part of Holešovice is still reminiscent of its past. We have the train and the bus station here next to the factory chimneys. But of course, the true industrial vibe of the former workers' quarter is more steampunk. You will find centers of alternative culture like cross club, lots of street art, more cool cafes, and even a contemporary art gallery docks. Holešovice is also a cultural district. You have the Technical Museum here, you have the National Gallery, and you have docks, the center of contemporary art. Artists are often the first link in the chain of gentrification because they are the trendsetters. When a group of artists moves into a former industrial, cheap neighborhood, they transform it, they make it cooler and more interesting, and suddenly everybody wants to see this swanky area. And there's no stigma attached to it anymore. It's not shabby, it's shabby chic. It's not abandoned and empty. It's authentic and spacious. And it's not cheap, it's affordable. Not for long though. Then big investors come and capitalize on it. There's a lot of potential here in Holešovice, in the former workers' quarter, because the buildings here are not just regular offices and warehouses. This is a former brewery, this is a former creamery. These places have history, and history sells really well these days. Another big selling point of Holešovice is its vicinity to the river. And Prague Marina, located in the former Holešovice port, is a good example of that. These buildings were finished already a while ago, and the apartments and office spaces here sold like hot pies. Even though they were not really cheap, the prices for the apartments were between 5 million to around 16 million crowns. Gentrification is a process that is characterized by certain people who gentrify the area. So who are the gentrifiers in Holešovice? Normally, it's young families without kids or single people who work in corporate or entrepreneurs that are searching for the neighborhood where they would live comfortably, because gentrifiers don't travel far for work. They prefer to have the office, for example, next to their apartment, and in general they prefer to have all the facilities next to them. So gentrification also pushes that process of constructing new gyms, cafes, restaurants, business centers, anything that people might need here. And that sometimes changes the look of the neighborhood completely. After a while, you don't recognize it anymore. And that's it. You don't recognize it. A hip district just outside of the city center that offers offbeat shops, art galleries, bars, parks and cafes where you can relax and connect with the locals. It is also home to art spaces, a former meatpacking district, and restaurants where you can try traditional food. You might be thinking that I'm describing Prague's Holešovice, right? But it's actually entry to Westerbro, Copenhagen. How come these two very different cities have almost identical neighborhoods? Slowly, the same people that made this neighborhood attractive will realize that it's losing its original authentic vibe, so they will move out somewhere less mainstream, and all the unique atmosphere of Holešovice will be gone. Maybe that won't happen though, who knows? But gentrification doesn't sound so good anymore, right? And we haven't even mentioned that somewhere in the beginning of this process, the original inhabitants of Holešovice, the ones that were here before the artists, would be forced to move out because of increasing prices prices of rent and other services. Gentrification in its pure form is a very racist, ageist and ableist phenomenon. So far though, we only talked about it in theory. We have not seen any concrete examples of gentrification, so let me show you one. We are now in Prague market. According to Alarm Online magazine, markets are the litmus test for gentrification because they reflect financial income, needs and the social status of people who live nearby. Prague market was founded as a slaughterhouse that was neglected for years. Eventually, a big Vietnamese market was established here. It was largely criticized because, I'm quoting, Vietnamese people are occupying the historical buildings. I find this statement quite odd because they were paying rent to be here. After some time, Vietnamese market was closed, and even though a few stalls are left and you can still find them here, Prague market is currently going through huge revitalization. It should cost up to 2 billion Czech crowns in the end, and it should take 15 years. The organization that takes care of the revitalization of Prague market emphasized that their goal is to make it open for everyone. Everyone, but not the lower class and not the marginalized groups. Is it because they don't look good on their pictures for their website? Prague market is a big investment, and people who run it want to make sure it's going to pay off. So from the business side of things, they're doing it right. They're building an area that will attract middle and upper class people and the tourists. Prague market is doing a huge favor to other developers in Holešovice. They're making it attractive. They're making it like Borough Market in London or Mercado de San Miguel in Madrid. It is the new reality that they want to create here in the old historical buildings. This is kind of creepy. Open and welcome. Parking, infrastructure, water management, sustainability equals freedom. New reality. What do you think about the new reality, Vaclav? Coming back to the description that we used for Holešovice, Vesterbro was gentrified a while ago, and Holešovice is definitely heading to the same direction. It is scary to see how one of your most favorite neighborhoods in Prague now fits into the mold of any other gentrified neighborhood in the world. It's almost like they're all the same now. So guys, if you're not gonna make it to Prague till the year 2030 or something, say bye-bye to all of that. All of that is gonna be gone. It's gonna be filled with fountains and stores and restaurants and happy kids. They're gonna be eating ice cream, buying new clothes, and it's gonna be great. So we'll see you in the new reality.